continuing this whole series of how to pleat without a pleater, one option you do have, but is a little bit cumbersome, a lot cumbersome, is to use your machine, okay? Now, it's not going to do as good a result as an actual pleater is, but you can make do with it, and it's better. It'll save you more time than doing it by hand. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your fabric, and if it does rip, you're going to want to rip it. Well, the other thing that doing it by machine is to transfer those dots. You can only do that on some flavor of like a sheer fabric, because you got to be able to see through the fabric to get to your dots. So if you've got a printed fabric, this might be your solution before you buy a pleater. Eventually, if you do enjoy smocking, you're gonna be buying a pleater. That's just the how that works. Okay. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your fabric and rip it on the grain if that's possible. Then you're gonna iron it, and then you're going to take it, and I would suggest doing a straight edge. So make sure you get something that is square onto your fabric, and then just run it looks like it's sliding, but it's not. It's just the fabric, but it's the ruler sliding with it. But you're just going to want to establish a starting point. That's going to be critical for how this method works, as you want that starting point to be absolutely as accurate as possible. And you know me, guys, I'm not one I'm like, hey, it's not rocket science, don't worry about it. This you got to worry about, okay? This is how this whole thing is built off of. So if your machine, my machine maxes out at a 5mm stitch length, which is not ideal for this method. You can make it work. I'm going to show you what a 5mm is going to be like. It's a smidgen under, I'll do the math for you and have it inserted. But it'd be better if you had a machine that goes up to about 6 or 7 or 8mm. Some go up to 9, and at any rate. So you're going to want to make sure that you gotta keep this square, okay? So you gotta have your starting point, then you also have to have where it is on your presser foot, on that plate. So your stitch length is going to establish the distance in between your pleats, which on a traditional smocking pleater, that dimension is about 1/4 inch. So 5mm is under 1/4 inch, which is why I'm saying it's not ideal, but you can make it work. Then the distance in between those rows, that is personal preference. Now on a smocking pleater, the distance is established as 3/8 for a whole space and 3/16 for a half space, but that's completely up to you. You can make it whatever you want, as long as you make it, well, you can always back smock if it's too long. And here, I'm getting sidetracked. So what you're going to do is you're going to want to really get this starting position the same for every one. So I am really let me try to get you into my machine, alright? So you can see there's my line, and then you can see my needle is going right, I'm using the hand crank, it's going right down on that line, as accurate as I can get. Now, so then on my plate, now I'm just a hair under that 1/2 inch. Just pick a line as far as the line that you start with. See what you're doing with your project. See what makes sense. Sorry. I've got a toy underneath my pedal. Sorry, my kids. Anywho, so just pick a line, make whatever makes sense with your project, pick a line and stick with that line. You're going to want to stick to the spacing as much as possible. You're going to want to be that as square, as parallel as you can get. I'm just going to go for a little ways just to kind of show you. Now, your fabric may have gotten bunched up just because this is a long gather thread, you know, so if you've got a lightweight fabric, it's probably going to get bunched. Just make sure you have enough thread before you chop it off to smooth it out, because you're going to want it to be smooth for the next pass. So you can choose to line up the edge of your presser foot with the previous stitches. That way you're trying to get as parallel. So if those first row of stitches were a little bit off parallel from your fabric, now you're establishing these stitches parallel to those, if that makes some sense. But you just want to keep this as square as possible, as parallel as possible, which is why I keep saying it's not the ideal method, but you can make it work if you're going to be meticulous about it. So again, we want to establish our starting point. I'm going to be using the hand crank and putting it down there. What spacing do I have here? Should be like should be around 3/8. I think it should be 3/8, right? It is, yeah, 3/8. Okay. Whatever you want, this spacing can be whatever you want. But you want to try to, that needle going down right now, as accurate as you can to the last place the needle went down on that first row. And you're going to do the same thing. And I'm just going to do a third row for kicks and grins so it'll pleat up nicer when I show you how this pleats up. Alright, I usually have better luck with the top thread, but you just want to pull on one of them. Like, you don't want to pull on the bobbin thread if you're pulling on the top thread. And these you're going to have to work with a little bit more than those pleat. I keep saying it's not the best method as the pleating, right? As a smocking pleater. But you can make it work if you just want to see if you enjoy smocking before you buy a pleater, because I would say if you're trying to do this with, okay, I would say the quality of pleats and efficiency and all that stuff, this method is on the bottom of the list. Then it's doing it by hand or doing it to gingham would be next, and then a smocking pleater is on top. Just, that's my, I think, order of quality and efficiency. FYI. So you can put them together like this, and they do need a bit of like fudging, and you can fudge them some when you go to smock it, but you can see they're not perfect. See, that area right there needs to go down some. So that's what I'm trying to say, is when you go to smock this, let me get something to poke that with. So when you go to smock this area, you'll actually get it to look better. You can go through that pleat, and then you'll go on to the next pleat, and this area in here will kind of settle in the valley, so it'll look better after you pleat it. But you can make it work. You can see how those pleats are nice together. Then you can move over. You're gonna have to work a little bit with this one here. So if you're trying to do a little bit like under a yoke, you could probably mess around with this method. If you're trying to do a bishop, I would not do it. It would just be so much more hassle. Even if you don't want to mess with the dots or creating your own dots, get you some gingham. And I have another video about that. So take it for what it's worth. It's another tool in your belt if you don't have a pleater. I think I need to wrap this video if you can't hear Henry wants me. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them. And as always, guys, I appreciate y'all for watching, and I hope to catch y'all next time.